Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ed DeVeaux. I'm the president of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, the state's first and largest trade association developed to help the state embark upon a responsible, sustainable, diverse, and profitable cannabis industry. I want to welcome you all to our regularly scheduled Friday Lunch and Learn. And we're looking forward to a great conversation this afternoon with our guest, Stacey Udell of HBK CPAs. Before that, I just want to first welcome everyone to my latest location. I am at Sanzari's New Bridge Inn. Want to thank our board members. Marianne Bays is here in the chat feature. So Marianne, the Vice President of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. Marianne, thank you for being here. I want to thank ABS, Trenton-based firm that helps us with our production every Friday. Also, want to thank Burton Trent, one of our sponsors, Burton Trent Public Affairs. Also, the firm of Inglesino, Webster, Wixkala, and Taylor. They are a big sponsor of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. Want to give them a shout out. And lastly, I know some of you, many of you, have seen some of our work that we've been doing with respect to social justice, social equity, and commerce, which I have embraced as a singular conversation these days. We've actually launched a strategic partnership with 6 social and economic advocacy groups. But along with that, not only thanking them and welcoming them, I also want to acknowledge the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association Hemp Working Group. We developed a hemp working group, which has actually continued to advocate and actually create recommendations for the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission with respect to hemp policy in the state of New Jersey. So I want to thank a board member and the CEO of Pure Genesis, Faye Coleman. I want to thank Brett Goldman and member Eric Axelson, not only a member, but the CEO of Garden State Harvest, who is a tremendous hemp resource in the state of New Jersey. So, without any further ado, I'd like to get into this afternoon's conversation. Many of you have been asking questions over the last few weeks as we've done Lunch and Learn, and the taxation and banking questions continue to be a challenge or at least a source of concern for many of you. But I'd like to thank Stacey Udell, who's with us today. Stacey is with HBK CPAs. Stacey is our resident expert on taxation and banking. So Stacey, I want to welcome you to our Lunch and Learn today.
Thanks, Ed. Sorry I'm not with you there at lunch.
So that's great. Well, glad you could make it. I'll do a to-go for you.
Sounds good.
Great. So Stacey, to jump right into the conversation, you know, when we talk about cannabis businesses, we oftentimes view them as separate businesses or distinct businesses. And I would offer that separate from touching the plant. Cannabis businesses, whether you're in an ancillary business or support service, you're just like any other business. And that's one of our goals with respect to normalization of the cannabis industry. So let's start with, as an experienced person in taxation and in banking, what do people need to know? What are some of the common mistakes when establishing a business period? Many of the people that are members of the association will be establishing businesses for the first time. What are some of the things that you would advise them to do from at least a taxation standpoint, so that when you're starting your business, what things should we avoid? What things can we do to make that process easier?
I'm happy to participate here. I want to let everybody know, though, I'm not a tax expert. My firm has a lot of tax experts, and the normal disclaimer that I'm not giving any legal advice in anything that I'm saying. So I'm happy to help, but given those two disclaimers. So the first thing I would say, there's a couple things that I think of, and one is, when you're setting up your business, be careful of the business entity you choose. And I'll go into that in a little detail in a minute, but also, keep excellent records. Don't lie. I mean, they're simple, but they're simple little things, but it's very important in business. One of the key court cases that resulted in 280E being enacted, involved in the court case, the judge said, we like the candor and openness of the business owner, and that's why, they allowed certain deductions at that time. It's a fun case. So there was a drug dealer out in California in the 70s. He went to do his taxes, didn't necessarily do the best job keeping records, but he went back and tried to reconstruct everything, and he did as good a job as he could. And when he went to tax court, the IRS looked at his deductions, and he deducted his home office space and a trip to California. I forgot to add, he's a drug dealer, but he sold everything on consignment. So technically, he didn't have title to what he sold. He bought some office supplies, packing materials, things like that. He bought, the little bags that it came in, etc. And the only expenses that were not the court said were not deductible were the things he couldn't substantiate. The other expenses were all allowed. But then Congress said, well, whoa, you're letting drug dealers get these tax breaks. What's that all about? And that's why 280E came about, which says you cannot deduct ordinary and necessary business expenses, basically, from your from your income if you are trafficking a Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drug, which of course marijuana is. And I wanted to specifically say Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 because, there was some talk about rescheduling cannabis to be a Schedule 2 drug. That wouldn't get rid of 280E, unfortunately.
So for those that are just joining us, explain a little bit about 280E. I mean, some people hear it and we don't know what it's for. So if you could take a moment and explain 280E and what it means to those of us that are looking to enter into the cannabis business.
Sure. What 280E says is that you can only deduct the cost of goods sold. And that's different depending on the type of business you have. So for a cultivator, let's say, you can deduct a lot of different expenses. You can deduct the soil and the materials and the plants, and you have labor costs that go towards the product. Processing, it's easy to think what goes in it when you look at processing and cultivation. Retail, there's very little allowed in cost of sales. The cost of the product would be allowed. If you are packaging the product or shipping the product to you, those types of things are allowed. But selling costs are not allowed, so no marketing, no advertising. No, if you have a retail storefront, the cashiers are not, those costs are not allowed. So retail, you have to look at the costs necessary to get the product out the door. And that's it. So for the most part, if you have two businesses, let's say you have a cultivation facility and a retail facility with $1 million worth of sales, and cost of sales is $500,000 for each. And then let's say all your general administrative costs, your utilities, your overhead salaries, bank charges, travel. There's a lot of travel done in business. It's not, it's a general and administrative expense though, unless you're picking up the product. So it's not deductible. So let's say you have $200,000 of those general administrative expenses. So $1 million minus $500,000 minus $200,000 equals $300,000, and what we would say is taxable income. Well, for a retail store, they can deduct the 1 million less the 500,000. But a normal business is only being taxed on the 300,000 that's left. Some businesses, what can often happen is you end up paying more in taxes than you get, there's cash able to distribute, because you still had all those general administrative expenses, just you can't deduct them. And so that's, you know, as mentioned about choosing the entity, you know, that's part of the issue, because if if you're investing in one of these cannabis businesses and there's no cash because you have all these operating costs, there might not be any cash, but you're still could be reporting income. So then you're gonna have to come out of your own pocket to pay those taxes because you're not getting any from the business. You know, normally if you have pass-through income, the entity gives you the money to pay for the taxes. But in this case, that's not gonna happen. So that's something that people have to consider is, you know, am I going to be able to afford to pay these payroll taxes out of my own pocket while 280E is in place?
Thank you so much, Stacey. You know, your explanation brings me to this thought, and tell me what you think. Again, it's a new industry, but business is business. I know that much of our conversation has been around helping minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses get a foothold in this industry, in particular, those communities that have been historically disadvantaged, but business is business. And so if you don't have the financial acumen, reaching out to a firm like HBK makes sense. And having you as part of the team makes absolute sense, because look, many of us are no longer doing the 1040 easy form tax returns, right? And clearly, if you were in this industry, you're not going to be doing a 1040 easy, right? So your thoughts on getting a financial team member with respect to, be it an application or just be it running a business?
No, I agree. Especially, it's important for tax purposes. Like when I talked about the substantiation, you know, get things substantiated as you're doing the records. Don't have to go at the end of the year and figure out allocations and how you want things to look. You know, as you're going along, document what should be cost of sales and what shouldn't. You know, set up your QuickBooks file or whatever you're using to break out cost of sales from general and administrative costs. You know, that could mean having people punch in and out of a time clock, or I doubt people punch in or out anymore, but you know, logging in and out depending on their duties. You know, if you have somebody that in a retail store that's packaging in the back for 2 hours a day, and then he or she is selling the product versus 6-hour shift, those 2 hours can go into cost of sales when she spent packaging. So, and you know, if you have that documented, it's less likely that you're going to have a problem making those types of deductions. So it's just nice to set these things up in advance and to know what to expect. And, you know, we can show you examples like I'm giving these very vague examples, but we can go into more detail and show what the tax consequences, would be expected. So, and part of that is helpful because when you're trying to project out what your expenses are going to be and how much cash you're going to need from investors, knowing what kind of cash you're going to have to pay out for tax, your people are going to have to pay out for taxes, or the business is going to have to pay, is helpful. Because if you're a C Corp and the business is paying the taxes, you have to raise the money to be able to pay those taxes.
Thank you, Stacey. That's all great information. As we get ready to transition, because you talked about employees, and I know that there have been questions in the past about banking, and we're going to get into that in a second. But a question I just saw from a good friend and member, Jim Wooten, with respect to 280E. As far as I know, and Stacey, please do chime in on this, the fact that 280E exists, is a challenge to many companies. So is there an effort to either modify or maybe even eliminate 280E, or do you see that sticking around for a while?
There is an effort to get rid of it. Actually, there's a court case going on right now. It's called Standing Akimbo. Jim Thorburn is the attorney on it. He's a friend of mine. And what that case is trying to do, which helps states like New Jersey, where adult use is legal, it's asking whether the Controlled Substances Act trumps the state legalization of the business. Because if the state legalization wins, then 280E should not be applicable. So that case is going up to the Supreme Court, which is huge. So we'll see how that goes. In addition, you know, the Safe Banking Act, the MORE Act, all these things going on could impact it as well. Like I said, the only problem is making it a Schedule II drug is not going to help.
Right, right.
Let me add one more thing while I thought of it. You know, while, you know, all this litigation is going on and all this, the government, you know, actions with the bills, something to consider is when filing your tax return to file a protective claim. What that does is normally you can amend a return within 3 years after it's due. You would be able to amend the return after that period if there's a law change that, so if you deducted 280, you know, you didn't deduct expenses because of 280E and the law changes, you would be able to go back and get a refund for the taxes you paid based on the change in the law.
Great, thank you for that addition. One more quick 280E question as I happen to check out the chats. The term decouple, I'm not familiar with that. Maybe you could talk about that, decoupling 280E?
What that means is, you know, right now the federal law is 280E exists. And the decoupling means for the state, are they going to go along with what the IRS does, or are they going to decouple and do something different? So for example, like with bonus depreciation, the state has different, it has decoupled from the federal treatment and it has different limitations on that. So decoupling means they're separating themselves from what the federal law is.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So before we get into the banking questions, I just want to pause once again, thank all of our participants, all of you who have registered and are attending. We are the New Jersey Cannabis Association, the state's first and largest trade association in the state of New Jersey, for the development of a responsible, sustainable, diverse, and profitable cannabis industry. So we thank you all because we in fact do represent not just the current license holders, but we represent all of you who may want to either start or have a potential ancillary business in this space, a support service. So we welcome you. Your membership means so much. So whether it's an individual membership or a corporate membership, we invite you to visit our website, www.newjerseycannabusiness.com. Check us out, check out a membership, because your membership helps us bring people like Stacey to the forefront and get your questions answered as we prepare to embark on an expanded industry. So speaking of expanded industry, Stacey, so the banking question, I can tell you this, and this is a shout out to a board member and member of the association, BCB, Bayonne Community Bank. Bayonne Community Bank does in fact do cannabis banking, but they're not the only ones, but there could be more. Certainly it is a challenge. So Stacey, what has been your experience? What are your thoughts on banking when it comes to the cannabis industry? We know that there are banks that are doing it. So it's not like you won't be able to get banking assistance. So help us out with the banking circumstances and questions.
Sure. Actually, I spoke to a potential client yesterday and she mentioned opening a bank account. You know, and she said she went to TD, she went to Wells Fargo. She went to one of the cannabis serving banks. There's three I can think of off the bat that are are pretty open about banking in the space. But I said, don't even bother going to the TD or the Wells Fargo. They're going to turn, they will turn you down. It's not worth it. Something I want to say regarding the banking, and I found this very interesting. A few years ago, I saw Sunday Seafried, who started the credit union in Colorado. And what she explained is, we think, the banks are charging $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever, because they're trying to make money, but that's not it. There's such high costs of compliance with banking. They're trying to cover their costs because, they have to have more people involved to count the cash, to file SARs, suspicious activity reports. So there's a lot more labor involved in a cannabis business than a consulting entity or something like that. So the banks are really trying to cover their costs, and, serve their customers and, provide a service for them that not everybody's willing to. I've been saying for the past couple of years, I like when you see banks like BCB and Park and South Jersey Federal Credit Union helping the industry. And I really hope that once things do open up for banks, they remember the fact that, these three banks, for example, were there to support them when nobody else would.
Excellent. Thank you. And say those banks again, because you know what?
Am I allowed?
We really do want to support each other, right? This is the one word that always stands out in my mind since I've been involved, even starting as a policy person, is community, right? It is a cannabis community. And so when it comes to community, we all want to help each other and help each other. It's not only create the industry, but be successful in the industry. So who are those that have stood with the cannabis community?
Well, of course, Bergen Community Bank, BCB, Park Bank was banking cannabis, and South Jersey Federal Credit Union. So the person at Park Bank that started the banking, for a while it was only BCB and Park. The person that started the program at Park went to South Jersey Federal Credit Union and started there also. And I know in certain circumstances they are lending at that bank as well.
Excellent.
And if anybody, wants contact information at any of the banks, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to provide it. But again, one of those things, I said before about being honest, don't lie when you open up your account. What I do recommend though is, be careful when you choose your business name, because you don't necessarily want something with marijuana or cannabis or anything like that in the name of the business, because it does put up some red flags depending on what you're trying to do.
That's great insight. So one of the big questions that comes up is, between the difference or similarities between cash and checks or credit. If you could please talk a little bit about the differences, similarities, if there are advantages or disadvantages as a business in the cannabis space with respect to cash, credit, checking. Are there differences, similarities? What helps and what doesn't?
Right. Well, credit cards are an issue because Visa and MasterCard will not accept transactions related to the cannabis industry. So merchant processing services are very difficult to find. Cash is used most of the time, but the problem with cash is, for example, if I'm a business owner and I own my dispensary and I'm getting paid cash, or I'm a cultivator and I have very large purchases and I have cash in, I have to then use that cash to pay my electric bill, my water bill, things like that. So I'm going to, having to take that extra effort to pay my bills with cash. And then of course, the utility companies and the phone companies and all that are getting smelly cash. So they're not thrilled with it either. And, there's a lot of additional costs with cash, is because you have to have extra security. So you need, more security, because it's more putting, your employees at risk more, because it's a lot easier to steal cash than it is to steal, product. I know e-checks are, sometimes used in the industry. We see ATM machines in different dispensaries in order to be able to use your credit card. I've seen using gift cards, but Planet 13 in Las Vegas used to do this. You go in and you buy a $400 gift card from there. And so you would charge $400, they'd give you a gift card, and then you used your gift card to buy the product. And it cost you whatever, $4 to keep the gift card and have it running, but it gave people an option to use that, because I know I never have cash in my wallet.
Right. Well, look, for all those that are in attendance, I do accept gift cards. They're real easy to give me. I'll give you my address. So, again, just kind of going back to the initial premise, like, are similarities, cash, check, are they equal, or are they different? Cash or check? We know credit cards are kind of really a unique thing, but cash or check?
Well, I think, with the cash, again, it's easier to steal because it's hard to steal checks, but checks still require more effort because you have to endorse them. You have to either go to the bank to deposit them or use your phone to deposit them, which takes forever. So, I mean, and people are wary of checks, just like in Target or wherever, but you have to show 16 forms of ID and give blood if you want to write a check, because they want to make sure it's not going to bounce. So you definitely see more cash than checks in the industry. Right,
that's right. And so another question that I just saw, and I can, from Jay, and I could tell Jay, we've had issues when it comes to PayPal, I mean, so like just kind of a broad view, things like, because there are apps out there like Zelle or Zelly or Cash App, PayPal. Again, we've had issues. So your thoughts on just those couple of things?
Well, again, you made a good point. You're a nonprofit organization, but because you have cannabis in the title, you're at risk. So that's partly why I, mentioned, when you consider the name of the business, because New Jersey Cannabis Business Association isn't a plant touching business, but yet you still are you still have issues with banking because of it. So, and I mean, even CPA firms and law firms, there's some that say, we shouldn't get PPP loans, for example. It's just, there's various things. I remember I was teaching in Newark for minorities for medical marijuana, and there was a doctor there, and she said they closed her bank account because they saw on her website, she's a doctor, and they closed her bank account because on her website she had something mentioned about medical marijuana. And for that reason alone, they closed down her account, which is crazy. Yep, and I see the comment up there about New Jersey Cannabis Consulting. Yes, they don't want to see canna in the title, but again, you don't lie about it. So, or think of another, use another name that they're not going to pick up on, because you can do a DBA, doing business as, if you need to, in order to, get banking. Not that you want to lie to the bank, but if they ask what your business is, it is consulting, something like that.
Right. No, that's such great advice for those, again, that are looking to get into the business or are having issues. So thank you so much for that information. So Stacey, as we prepare to wrap up, again, I just want to thank you so much. HBK, CPAs, you guys do great work. Thank you for being here with us. I want to thank all of you who attended today as we work to get our Lunch and Learns up on our future YouTube channel and on our website. We'll be working on that. Please do visit New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. Check us out. Please do check out a membership, because your membership helps us do things like this. And as COVID restrictions ease, we are definitely looking forward to doing some in-person networking in the near future. I know that there are some more questions with respect to 280E and banking. So what we want to do is make sure, please do call us, email us, please get your questions in. Stacey, you are such a tremendous resource to the industry, and we thank you. So any closing thoughts?
Now, again, like I said, be honest, and be honest, be cautious. It's not, it's not worth getting yourself in trouble over. I mean, you don't want to be too aggressive, like from a tax standpoint, don't be too aggressive, be cautious. We were talking about the business helping each other, and we have that good warm fuzzy feeling in the cannabis industry, so we kind of should keep that in mind when we talk about our accounting and banking and things like that, and just really be nice about it. Don't be aggressive. We want the industry to succeed, and it's not worth a few bad apples spoiling the bunch. Right.
Stacey Udell of HBK CPAs, thank you so much. Big thanks to Sanzari's New Bridge Inn in Bergen County. Thank you guys. I'm about to get something to eat here. Not sure what. Everything is good, from the thin crust pizza to the salads. Just a tremendous time here at Sanzari's New Bridge Inn. Thank you for my lunch at Lunch and Learn. Thank you all for attending today. Really appreciate it. Our Lunch and Learn is every Friday at noon, where we have a conversation about what we need to help develop our cannabis industry in New Jersey. Thank you all so much for attending. Stacey Udell, once again, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to continue working with you. To BCB, Bayonne Community Bank, our bank and board member and corporate member of the New Jersey Cannabis Association. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend. The weather's supposed to be great. Enjoy. Take care. Thank you all.